Wow, we are here, everybody. Welcome to another episode of 3+1, the live cast. So we are joined tonight by diversity and inclusion expert Zack Thomas. We have so much to talk about in his field, in his area, in the world in which he inhabits every day. So welcome, Zack. Thank you for joining us on this special broadcast with us. Tracey, how are you, my friend? We miss you. I know we missed each other last week.
Yes, I missed you too, and I'm doing well, and I'm super excited to have Zack Thomas on the show tonight.
Thank you, Candy. Yeah, so we have a lot to discuss, and so there's some things that are just special and unique to Zack and Tracey, right? Some things that we can really talk about on this platform. And we're going to get into all the controversial stuff. We're going to go ahead and get into all of the political stuff. But before we get into that, we're going to start this week up with the down and go directly into this, Tracey, because it's still prevalent on the minds of a lot of people, right? We're talking about, this is, I think, Derick Jaxn and his wife. Tracey,
Jackson with an X.
With an X. Tracey, tell us about this, because you know a little bit more about this world of influencing than I do.
How do I know?
Because you really are in tune with a number. Because the truth of the matter is, you know, it's not a secret that I'm really a news junkie, but I'm also very much about hardcore news. And I don't watch a lot of pop news. I don't follow a lot of pop news. And I really don't follow a lot of the some of these influencers that are in a different niche than what I guess my interests lie. And Derick Jaxn certainly lives in a world that I don't live in.
Okay. Well, Zack number 2 and I will take on this. I'm sure he's got a lot to say. But
let me correct you. I'm number 1. He would tell you I'm number 2, but I'm number 1. But go ahead.
Absolutely. So Derick Jaxn is a self-proclaimed relationship guru / women, in particular Black women, inspirational, motivational speaker. And I'm not gonna lie, you know, years ago when he came out, I was like, oh my God, somebody gets it. You know, I will watch his videos in his cars and I'm like, where he been? Where he live? Where he at? Why we can't find more of him? And
Tracey, what's some of the advice he gives?
A lot of the advice is signs that a man is into you, or signs that you should, a man is a narcissist, or he would talk about if a man does X, Y, and Z, or if he's abusive, if he cheats on you, if he talks down to you, you need to leave him alone. And as his star began to rise, he would take on other celebrities or people in the news, like John Gray's cheating scandal. He had something to say about that. Anybody, Kevin Hart, he spoke out about that scandal. And so it is so ironic that now he's going through what he's going through. Zack, I hand you the baton now, but I've done a lot of talking. Did I get everything?
Yes, you did. But is it ironic? Like, you was wondering where he was in his car every time he gave advice. Now you know. He was leaving the other woman's house. And so I find it interesting how men in particular kind of use this platform and use social media to kind of give advice when they're not taking their own advice. But then also, it reminds me of the whole like Think Like a Man when Steve Harvey came out with that book, and people wanted to capitalize on that because women were so into that. Because, here's someone advice coming from a man, thinking like a man, and how can I think like a man? But be careful who you get your sources and your resources from.
Yeah.
And so, like Candy says, number 1, Candy says, so sad. She looks like the type to get advice from church mothers.
So here's the thing. He has attached himself to someone who is very, in my opinion, impressionable. Apparently there's a church that she belongs to that is known for cult-like behavior. And I think the pastor preaches to promiscuity, and he tries to, get the demons out of the women's vagina, And if you watch her videos, you can get the sense of a cult-like vibe. It really feels like robotic in her in her delivery. She's very robotic, and somebody told her this information. Like that bonnet, she got on there and called that bonnet her helmet of salvation.
Helmet of salvation. Hallelujah.
That's all I gotta say. I have nothing, but my thing is, she got on screen knowing the kind of scrutiny that she would get, and I think she did it on purpose, because she went from having like 100 followers to 100,000 followers, because she's wanted. If you go through her Instagram, she's wanted the recognition, but she's been in his shadow. But I haven't seen his following die down at all.
He's promoting that book.
Yeah.
What is the book?
Oh, we don't know.
I don't know the name. I don't need it.
To him, Stephen Speaks. I put Stephen Speaks in that same category. I also put Samuel in that same category. Steve Harvey, and that has been the mantra that I've been singing for many years. Why are all of these men talking to us women? And Stephen Speaks and I got into a back and forth via email, because I raised that question. I said, why aren't you talking to men? And his response was, more women come to my events, or more women buy my books. And I said, oh, so you're doing it for the money. Got it. I unsubscribed immediately, and I stopped following. This has been a couple of years ago, because, for Date Yourself Girl, I was trying to get some information, and I stopped following him and others because of that reason. I'm like, oh, they're after the Black woman's dollar, because they know we are seeking love, and it was just hard for me to be a fan. So,
is there anybody in this space that Black women can trust and count on to give them good advice and to give them the right type of influence that they're seeking?
Well, I hope they don't go to that. What's this new man that's giving advice?
Kevin Samuels.
With the beard and telling people you too fat, you this. Okay. Yeah, no.
Yeah, no, there are some people who are qualified. First of all, I believe you should go to counseling. If you are seeking to find out wisdom about self-empowerment, all of that, I think you should seek a counselor for that. And then there are some motivational speakers. One that comes to mind right now is Stacey J. She has a book called Just Date Girl. And really what she's talking about is not tying yourself to one person, getting to know several people to find out what it is you like about the dating scene, what it is you like about certain kinds of men, and really figuring out the dating scene, especially now since we live in such a non-committal society. So I do like her, but I just, I don't know. Dr. Linda Wiley is someone that I've grown to love on 1380. She's on the 1380 with Joyce Lytle. And they give really good relationship advice. So
one thing that I can say, this is real. Like I said, I actually am a huge student of generational divisions, which is really kind of the whole point and how this podcast started, was to talk about how I saw things with my former hostess and how she saw things in two different generations. And, we, three of us, are all a part of one generation of people. We are actually, all three of us are Zennial millennials, right? We came at the very end of Generation X, very beginning of the millennials. And now, we're Zennials or millennials, Zach, in your case. And so we actually all think very much alike. a lot of the things that a lot of the beliefs that our parents had, it's been passed down and passed down and passed down. But Generation Z, the brand new Zoomers, actually represent a drastic break in a lot of these concepts. A lot of beliefs that we have that we grew up with as Black people, our children, and they do not have those belief systems. And if they have them, they are breaking them. They are quickly letting them go to not carry them forward. One of those things actually comes, in the form of how this generation views human sexuality and identity, as well as how they view Christianity.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
For the first time in American history, the majority of a generation identifies as LGBTQIA+. The majority of these kids, 52%, identify as some form of LGBTQIA+, and a majority of these kids say they are not Christian and have no desire to be Christian. The majority of Zoomers, of these children. The question is this a forward step in the right direction, or has something happened that could hurt what we think needs to happen in American society?
What do you mean? What do you mean by that question, as it relates to Derick Jaxn?
Well, it's just about how I believe. So I think that Derick Jaxn is not, his audience isn't Zoomers. He's not getting, they're not young college age women listening to Derick Jaxn. These kids that we see on TikTok who are TikTok famous, they're not listening to Derick Jaxn. It's people who are our age and a little bit younger, a little bit older. We are his audience. We are the ones listening to him, but our children will not, I don't think, be impressionable to his manipulations, and to his lies, and to his clout chasing in the way that perhaps we may have been. But they're possibly being susceptible to something else. And the question is, what do we think about that? Here's an example, is that my niece is a staunch feminist. She ain't messing with men at all. I wish I could say the same for my nieces, Candace, but one thing you can learn about Mississippi, and I'm probably a lot more like the generation before mine, because in Mississippi, time is different. People are different. My nieces are probably like millennials as opposed to Zoomers. Like, they're a generation behind in their belief systems. And I'm sure they would listen to this Derick Jaxn and be all up in him.
Well, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, this generation today of kids are not seeing the traditional family structure as we saw it growing up, or as, even if you didn't grow up with a mother and father in your home, you grew up with mother, father figures in your community. Now is the grandmama is 40 years old, is 35, is, still out kicking it with kids.
But I think also to that point, the traditional family does not look the same. There are families with two dads, two moms that are raising kids. But then also this generation don't want to be boxed in. Like, I don't want to fit in a box. I don't even like labels. Some don't. So you have to understand that as well. And so to your point, Zach, yes, I could see why a large majority of this generation identify on the LGBTQ spectrum, because sexuality to them is fluid. I should be able to love who I want to love, and regardless of their social construct of male, female, transgender, or whatever. And then also, like, far as religion, not everybody is religious, but they also might be spiritual. So there's the two different pieces to understand there.
Was that you have spent a large portion of your career up until this point, as you have grown, matriculated, and learned in the world of higher education, working with a segment of student life and student leadership and student development. Did you see this coming?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, I had students who were on the spectrum for as LGBT. I had students who raised themselves. I had students who didn't identify with either gender. They were just them, they, them, there. I had students who wasn't spiritual or religious, but agnostic, atheist. So understanding that we all have a story. And
Mhm.
so we never know where our story may lead us. But we have to be open to learning. And I believe every moment is a teachable moment. You don't know why or what led that person to that particular life.
I guess
And it's not to say it's wrong.
no, not at all. I guess my question is, how did we get bamboozled by this man? The lot of us did get bamboozled.
I have a theory. I do.
Okay.
I have a theory about how we got here. And here's a sad reality. And this is not the case for the majority of people. It's not the case for every single person. But I think it's the case for, unfortunately, a number of people. There are within segments of community, and I'm talking about the Black community in this instance, a number of issues that were perpetuated and carried over from generational curses that have carried over. And we do have a number of people who come from broken homes, and even in our homes that were not broken, where you had two parents, perhaps at certain points, those parents didn't necessarily know how to parent. You have to be taught, in my opinion, how to love effectively. And sometimes if you're taught how to love in the wrong way, you have to undo that. And that takes a lot of work. And that goes back to what you said earlier, Tracey, about counseling, and what Candace put in the comments about counseling, because there's work to be done. And our parents, for those of us that have that made mistakes along the way, they didn't mean to. It was unintentional, but it's what we were taught to do. Like I know, that in the Black community, we believe, many of us, in corporal punishment. Mm-hmm. We believe in certain things that have been traditionally passed down to us. We saw that in the Kirk Franklin phone call, and how people said what they would do and how we responded. And it's a part of our culture. It is a part of who we are. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it is what it is. And that, to me, may lead to some of the issues that we may have in relationships that lead us to then seeking out support and how to make things work or how to make things better. And then we're not looking to therapy because mental health issues are stigmatized in our community. So we know we need help. We know we need advice. And instead of us getting it from a professional, we're getting it from Derick Jaxn. We're trying to get it from Steve Harvey. We're getting it from social media instead of getting it from someone who has a license and who has a training to help us be better. And it's a real issue that we need to address.
But I think also people are so prone to, like, I need somebody mentality, or I want somebody, instead of loving yourself first and working on you first. And making sure you are preparing yourself for somebody else to come in, not looking for somebody else to come in. Like, what am I doing to do some self-work on myself? Like, am I ready for this financially? Am I ready for this spiritually? Am I ready for this mentally, physically? Like, what am I doing to work on myself? And see, oftentimes we are so quick to want to have somebody because nobody wants to be alone. No. And so that's why they seek out this advice.
You're right. But I also want to so with that point of view, though, Zach, as human beings, we are not meant to be alone. And I'm not saying that we have to have companionship, but our family structures should be tighter in some cases than what they are. And we have to learn how to be better friends to our friends. All of that is a part of, I think, what we need so that we don't have people like Derick Jaxn being a false prophet for our mental health and our own growth.
Well, that was the reason I started Date Yourself Girl, was because I had just gotten out of a relationship that kind of took me over the edge mentally. I was like, I'm never gonna find anyone else. And I knew in that relationship I lost myself. And so that is why my mission, my motto is, empowering women to become the love that they seek. So you have to become what you desire. And also, you need to love yourself enough to recognize the bullshit. Okay? For me, I don't tolerate as much BS as I used to. I would hold on to a relationship for 2 or 3 years. Now it might be 2 months. Okay, I'm recognizing some of those red flags sooner.
But also love yourself enough to know that you are enough.
Yes.
Like, to add to that. Like, not just to recognize the bullshit, but know that you are enough.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we allow toxicity to come in and fill us and change us into who they want us to be, not who we want to be, and we lose ourselves, like you talked about.
We'll shrink ourselves, you know.
So, and another part of that, Tracey, in terms of trying to that really was meant to be a transition about Christianity and spirituality.
I know, but I wanted to keep talking about Derick Jaxn.
That's fine. Have we filled up on Derick Jaxn and the Derick Jaxn controversy? We have.
I don't know if we have. I really wanted to get on the wife, but
so let's talk about the wife, Tracey. What are your thoughts? Now, Candace says she looks like, again, someone who takes advice from the church mother board. Zack, I think you both talked about how she may have been involved in a cult-like church that gave her these belief systems that she's holding on to.
But I guess that's a question to you, Tracey. Is cheating a deal breaker for you in a relationship?
Okay, so I just had this conversation today with my neighbor. I asked him, I said, are all men gonna cheat? You know, are we supposed to just deal with the fact that men may be prone to cheat? Or, you know, and he said yes. And that messed with me all day. It has messed with me all day. And so now it's got me thinking, like, cheating was a deal breaker for me. It was. But now I'm kind of like, if Beyonce got yes, Socratic method. If Beyonce got cheated on, and now recently J-Lo, we're finding out that all of these beautiful women, these talented women, these women who've got their stuff together are being cheated on. And is it because men in these situations don't feel like these women need them? Like, am I supposed to shrink myself to make this man think that I need him in order for him to see the value in having me in his life, his helpmate? Like, that is scary for me.
It's the opposite. You're supposed to make that man feel like he needs you. Like he can't live without you. You know, your partner needs to feel like they can't live their life without your love.
Okay, well, let's figure it out. Beyonce.
But this is the thing. Every relationship, in my opinion, is different. And it is dependent upon what you want and what you will allow in your relationship. I don't think any woman and man can compare themselves to Beyonce and Jay-Z because they only want Beyonce and Jay-Z. It's about you and what you want and what you will allow. And there's nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with an open marriage. There is nothing wrong with, you know, multiple partners. If that's what you
want,
your partner both consent to and want.
Right.
But it's about you as a person saying, this is what I want for me, and your partner saying that's what they want, you guys agreeing and coming to a conclusion and sticking by it. And if you do not, if infidelity is a deal breaker for you, then infidelity is a deal breaker and there's nothing wrong with it. You don't have to settle for infidelity because your idiot neighbor, and you can tell them I said it, say, you know, my friend called you idiot because your idiot neighbor said that. There are people in this world who do not cheat. There are people in this world that are committed. There are people in this world who literally would say, I cannot live my life without the love of my life. And if I cheat on my wife, if I cheat on my husband, I'm going to lose them. And the fear of losing that person keeps them right there where they need to be.
But I think cheating this week has become a real hot topic, especially with the Derick Jaxn. And then we also can't compare our lives to celebrities and their relationships. Oftentimes we're trying to do that, or people are trying to do that. And then I recently saw this clip of this new show that's coming out on the All Black New Network. It's a reality show, and the woman said, you got to respectfully cheat. I'm okay with him respectfully cheating. If he brings a baby home, a disease, or if he's gay, then that's a deal breaker. And I'm like, respectfully cheat?
What she means is, don't let me find out. That's what she means.
And that's fine for her. There's nothing wrong with her if that's what she wants to do, but that's not a world I could live in. Tracy, Marcus Godbolt says, you mentioned when you see red flags, that's pretty much the end of a relationship. Do you think talking about those red flags with the person would help?
I have, and on several occasions, I found that the response is, well, this is who I am. So I'm telling you something that I see as a red flag or that concerns me, and you don't want to adjust, but I gotta adjust to you and the stuff that you notice about me. Deal breaker, Marcus Godbolt. Good to see you on today. But no, I will not hold my tongue. You know, I'm going to talk to my mate and let him know, you know, this bothers me, or, you know, you said this or you did this, because I used to not say anything. Okay.
But
they just walk all over me.
But another question for you. Is cheating only physical?
No, I believe you can have an emotional relationship with
Is that a deal breaker?
No.
Candy says it's a deal breaker for her. She agrees with me about your neighbor. He is an idiot bastard. So here's the thing. I think, you know, Cerinthia, I agree with this in large part when you say, you know, it's a lot of text. So Tracy, I'm sorry, Cerinthia got us covered a little bit. I'm not convinced that all men cheat with another person per se, but there is a potential for all men and women in marriage to elevate a thing above the spouse. This is another form of cheating, basically elevates to the temporary deprivation of love and affection. But if that love and affection is there and the communication is there, will the infidelity occur? It's something to ponder and think about. I also think that it's important to acknowledge, I think I kind of earlier talked about like men cheating. When people think men cheat, women have higher sex drives than men. Yeah. So I don't think that the sex drive, the desire is not, I don't think, valid in the case of cheating. Some of these men, they have testosterone issues and they cannot obtain an erection on their own, and they get assistance and they still cheat with the assistance. That speaks to a much larger issue.
Now, I don't think any of us doctors can help that now. We can't talk about that.
Well, I did speak on it because, again, the infidelity and the issues, they bother me. Now I'm about to keep allowing, I'm not take your insecurities out on me. If you need to cheat, leave me the hell alone. It's what Dr. Pickett says. You know, because it comes from someplace other than you, and that's what he's saying. It's not me that has a problem. If you have a problem, if you have these issues, you need to go.
So listen. You communicate with your partner, because I do believe communication, I think Lydia brought this up. I do believe communication is key, but what if you do communicate and it amounts to nothingness? Like I can't communicate enough. Like I feel like I do all the talking. I want to listen sometimes. I want to be the one, you know, I just want.
I'm hiding my face because I think I'm the opposite. I'm the one who like, why do we have to do all this damn talking? We just talked about it last week. We just talked about it yesterday.
It's because the behavior has not changed. That's why. That's why you know, men like to call that nagging, but it's not. It's not me nagging. It's me saying it again because you continue to do the thing. And it might not be the exact thing that you did last week. It's morphed into something else.
Yeah. And so this is, you know, Lydia, when she's talking about the communication part.
Okay.
And you're saying, you know, the communication is ongoing.
That's right, CJ, get her.
I'm talking about facts I'm talking about what I believe, my beliefs. And so, yeah, let them do what they want. And then, so, you know, you see what they want to do. And then, you know, you definitely, but you out here cheating and you out here cheating with someone basic, please get out of here. So I think it's just, again, it depends on the person, it depends on the relationship, it depends on the situation. Again, so, you know, with his wife, I think I don't have any ill will or shame towards her for her marriage. It's her choice. She can make that choice to stay in that marriage or not. I don't have any ill will towards J-Lo. That's their choice. They have that right. I do not. That's their choice.
Well, don't be up here preaching the word of God.
Is Derick Jaxn a minister?
No, but she is a mini minister. I don't know what she is. I don't know.
Well, she had on a breastplate of glory or something. I do remember reading that.
Helmet.
The helmet of salvation and the breastplate. She called her soldier's outfit the breastplate of the garment of something. I don't know.
Well, what do you guys think about this garment as we continue on into this week's other controversy surrounding like Lil Nas X and his brand new breakout runaway hit, Call Me By Your Name, Montero. It definitely has sparked a lot of controversy. We talked about this, Zach and I. We spoke on this Monday. You know, Tracey, from a woman's perspective, you know, in this video, he's retelling the story. You know, the Garden of Eden is being represented. This is a representation of a trial, perhaps a trial of Jesus. Then he ends up in hell where he gives Satan a lap dance and ultimately he kills him. You know, what are your thoughts?
We were talking about this earlier. I thought the visuals were very striking and beautiful, and you know, but then I don't know, y'all. I understand the story he's trying to tell about how Christians have what am I trying to say? Oh my God. Have
judged him and cast him into hell.
And have cast him to hell because he's a gay man. And so I understand what message he was trying to get across. My only issue is the satanic visuals and how is that going to, and y'all said that the younger generation doesn't have a religion or religious beliefs or whatever y'all said. But I really think kids who follow him, 5, 6 years old, 10-year-old kids, I don't think they should be seeing visuals like that. Him dancing, or I don't care if he was a woman. I don't think they should be seeing it. And he's selling shoes that have the mark of the beast on them, guys. Are y'all for real? Like, this man is putting out Satan. I don't care what kind of message at this point he's trying to say. It's satanic at this point. A drop of human blood in a shoe?
Yeah.
That's branding. That's marketing. I love it.
That is
call me a heathen.
That is the mark of the beast. All the people that wore those MAGA hats, mark of the beast. And if you bought those 666 shoes, those are the mark of the beast. I'm going on mute. Where is it?
Yeah. So, and this is a good. There's some great points being made. I agree with Zach. It is marketing. He's done. You know, here's the bottom line. Okay.
Hold on, Zach. But let me finish. Can I finish this point? Yeah. It's marketing, it's branding, it's creativity. I loved it for the visuals as well. I don't think it's his responsibility to be teaching a 5 or 6 year old. Like, that's not his job. He's being himself.
You're right.
He's putting just because a child like Old Town Road that was 3, 4, 5, 6. Doesn't mean that I should always cater to that generation.
You're right.
There's a generation like I grow up.
You're right, but here's the thing. Lisa Ray made a very good point. She said, "My granddaughter liked Old Town Road, and if I give her an iPad and I play that song on YouTube now, I don't know if the next song that's gonna play is gonna be this other thing. So I feel like I'm having to, like, if I'm driving and she's watching it in the back, I don't want to expose her involuntarily to this. I know that, yeah, you should absolutely grow as an artist. I do believe that. But I just feel like there's so many babies that get exposed to stuff way too soon. And as much as we try to keep them from certain things until they're of age.
Is that the celebrity's job to raise your child?
I do think so.
I don't.
Here's a question for you, Zach. does Coca-Cola and Delta have a responsibility in what happened in Georgia with the voter suppression law that could have given Donald Trump this election? Do they have responsibility? Because the same argument applies where we say it's not Coca-Cola and Delta's responsibility to fight for the voters of Georgia, in the same way that you're saying that Lil Nas X doesn't have a responsibility to be a role model to young people when we know that young people look up to him.
But just because he's not a role model to a 3, 4, or 5-year-old doesn't mean that he's not a role model to some gay person who's saying, I like this visual of you saying me going to hell, this is what it looks like, and this is what I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do in hell while I'm down there. Like, who's to say he's still not a role model?
Just saying, is there another way to get the message across? Did it have to be so extreme? Like, I agree. Inspire people who have been bullied about or afraid to say that I am this or I've identified as this, and this now I have this artist who has gone through and who has the courage to stand up to the people who have spoken against him. There's another way though. He's a baby himself. Did you know who you were at 21?
He's 22 now, I think.
Did you know who you were at 22?
And who's to say he still don't know? He's finding himself. Let me say this. Here's the bottom line. Like, I hate to put it out here like this, just as plain as day, but here's a harsh reality. This man had Old Town Road, which became a runaway hit, and the likelihood he was going to get another hit on his hands was slim to none. And he took that slim and he made it happen by going outrageous, big, doing all the again, this is what you do in this arena and in this field to gain your notoriety and to remain relevant. He did that. The shoes are absolutely next level ridiculous, but he's achieved his goal. To me, this tells me two things. Number one, parents have to again educate their children on the cult of celebrity and let our celebrities be in the zone, in the place they need to be in. Celebrities can't raise our children, and we can't look to celebrities to give us our values.
Do I not have a responsibility to people who follow me? You know, and I'm not even a damn celebrity, you know, but I do have people who watch me. And I have to be very conscious about the content that I post on my Instagram. Like, I remember I posted something years ago about self-tape, and my agent was like, take that down. People are watching you there, you know? And so I do feel like we have a responsibility to those people who we mentor and that look up to us and who look to us for certain messages. I'm not saying don't speak out against something. I'm just saying, is there not another way?
No, I wasn't another way, but he's trying to save his career. And so if this is his choice, he has that right as an artist. I'm just saying the bigger lesson is parents have to parent. And number two, the church has to take a hard look at itself and consider what it's going to do if it's really going to be about the work of building God's kingdom on earth, right? Like, I think the church exists for the sole purpose of building God's kingdom on earth and making our world a better place. I think that it is my job as a Christian to do the exact same thing, to contribute my talents, my time, my tent to building God's kingdom and do all that I can to live a Christ-like life so that other people who are not followers of Christ, or those who may be followers of Christ, can be encouraged and motivated by my message as a Christian. But that is not what the church has done by teaching a continuous doctrine of hell and eternal damnation. And that's why only 38% of children in Gen Z identify as Christian. Only 38%. First time in American history that a whole generation comes in the minority. But
it's not just about hell. We've got to also look at how these churches have been operating.
And it's also about their parents. But many of us who go to church.
The church used to be a place where we went to for everything. The church used to be our rec centers. The church used to be our place where we went after school to get tutoring. The church used to be the place where we got food and clothes and all kinds of stuff. The church is no longer that community center. And so I think that also, coupled with these mega churches who are asking for goo gobs of money or tithes, as they're called, and then the pastors rolling around in a Lamborghini.
But also the church can't be the place where it's condemning everybody. And we just talked about this generation is not living in a box. So if I identify on this spectrum, it's the church for me if they're preaching that I'm going to hell. Like, what are you saying? Like, even Tracey, going back to you, I never stopped loving you, even in safety when you voted no for that boy to play football on that team. Like, I still... I still loved you.
What movie was this? This was what, the Disney Channel, wasn't it?
Yes, it was on Safety, and one of the only black people on the panel, and the boy was black, and she said no.
I know not.
Tracey is an actress. She was playing a role, and obviously Tracey.
So was Lil Nas X. He was playing a role.
But here's the thing, and so DeAndre brings up a good point. I want to briefly address it. You know, about I'm in the church and have been criticized heavily all my, you know, in my life for things, including now, but nothing has moved me to create a video twerking on a devil-like figure. Here's the thing. I have been in churches where the pastor has made comments about gay people, and the church is full of gay people. I mean, literally, I remember going one time in my life to a church in Atlanta called New Beginnings. The whole congregation, except for maybe the motherboard, looked like they were homosexual gay men. And this pastor was up there giving one of the most anti-gay sermons I ever heard. And they were amen, hooping and hollering, and getting ready to sing in the choir. Now, I couldn't believe it. That's not the world I grew. That's not the Methodist life I grew up in. That's not my world. I couldn't believe it. But the fact that people would sit there Sunday after Sunday after Sunday after Sunday accepting this was, to me, a heartbreaking message. I say that to say, DeAndre, the times have changed and generations are different. I admire young people for having the fortitude to stand up to their elders when their elders have been consistently wrong. They don't have to sit there. And neither of those people at New Beginning, they didn't have to sit in that church. They did, they chose to. Many of them did so out of a sense of obligation, but those obligations and those chains need to be broken. Let me tell you this about me. Now, I know I'm going to heaven. I know where my future lies. I don't know nothing about this lap dancing on Satan because I don't think about the devil. It ain't something I even got to worry about. But what I will never do is sit up in anybody's church and allow them to say anything that is ignorant, racist, or homophobic, and think that, or misogynistic, and think I'm going to sit there and take it. Absolutely not. I'm going to get up and I'm going to walk out, and I will never again walk through those doors.
And that's why a lot of young people are not going, because that's what they hear time after time after time going to these churches. And so that's why they're becoming more spiritual and finding other ways to get centered or their belief. And so some doing, and I think that's why a lot of people went to yoga and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, it was Bishop Morton's brother.
Call it out. Is he still alive?
Called the church out.
Is he still alive?
James Morton, I think he is.
Oh, because if not, he might be.
You know what? Get off my phone. Get off my line. Next. What's the next stuff? Who's next? Go.
So the next topic really does, because we had to kind of go through we went through the clown and then the down to get to the up. And this is a really controversial up this week. And the up really talks about the boycott that's being discussed in the state of Georgia around Georgia brands like Coca-Cola, Delta, UPS, AT&T.
This is a down.
That was a very long time ago, DeAndre, and the pastor has apologized, and I think that's been addressed. That also predates my attendance and membership at that church. At the time that this happened, I was not a member of Impact. I was attending St. Mark United Methodist Church in downtown Atlanta, but I like my fried chicken with more than just salt and pepper. So you were saying, Tracey?
Oh, wait. I'm reading this comment.
Yeah, the only reason why people are so upset about this video is because Lil Nas X is gay. We listen to other rappers and groups with satanic names like 3 6 Mafia, Bone Thugs and Harmony. These things are reality, and it's real.
Do we think I'm not speaking out against Lil Nas X because he's gay?
Well, DeAndre, educate me. Put it in the comments. Let me know who you're talking about because I'm unfamiliar with that. I thought you were talking about a musician that used to be on the stage. But give me some insight and let me know what you're talking about. That's exactly what I was saying about. So you obviously know St. Martin. It's a beautiful church. Love that church in terms of the look. But I wasn't getting much of a United Methodist word
at all.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Did you go to that church, Zach? Did we go
one Easter Sunday? One Easter Sunday.
I love that church on Easter, and so
it was dry.
Here's the thing. What do we think about? Because this is as a matter of fact, today Stacey Abrams wrote an editorial that was published in USA Today that talked about this is not the time to boycott Georgia businesses. She does not want the Major League Baseball to relocate the All-Star game. She does not want Professional Golf Association to move the Masters tournament. She doesn't want us to boycott Coke or Delta. So I want to know what your thoughts are.
Too late. I already sold my shares in Delta, and I am not buying another Coke. And I'm pulling a Zachary Kirk. I am canceling everybody. Home Depot, all of you.
Go to Lowe's.
And see, I asked this earlier in the week. I was like, so what's the purpose of the boycott when it's these senators and these Congress people who are creating the laws that are kind of making this voter suppression happen?
It's about alignment. Yeah. It's about alignment. If you are aligning yourself with people who are suppressing voters, you could potentially lose your customers. So you need to align with what is right.
Always do what's right.
This is going to show other businesses your partnership with other people, other candidates could potentially lose you some business.
But I think it's a piece. Let me tell you why I asked that, because and you want me to talk about the little DEI stuff. Like, it's because, like, for us, especially within corporate America, they view diversity, equity, and inclusion as something that can't pose a legal, financial, or reputational risk. So if I see myself aligning more with the Black voters and as a corporation, and there's a whole nother group that I might be leaving out. And so that's why a lot of people in corporate DEI makes the business case for DEI. Is this a business case for me to support them?
I agree with that. I understand where you're coming from, Zach, but here's the issue. You cannot align yourself with legislation that is going to suppress or marginalize a group of people who are human freaking beings. And so it's just like, to me, that was common sense. Why would you shut up? Don't say nothing. Why are you saying anything? Oh, just be quiet. I don't know, y'all.
Delta did come out and make some statements that were absolutely tone deaf and inappropriate. They did a phenomenal retraction, claiming that they really didn't look deeply into the law or didn't go deep enough into the final law that was passed. Here's again why the boycott matters. And so, Zach, I want you to go to NPR. And so in Atlanta, I listen constantly to NPR. WABE is 90.1 FM. And if you go to WABE, NPR Atlanta, you have a phenomenal program by a journalist named Rose Scott. And she today interviewed the president or the chairwoman, I forget her title, of the National Urban League of Atlanta. And the whole focus of the National Urban League, Kale, as you said up here earlier, is about jobs, especially in the Black community, right, in the urban areas of our city in Atlanta. And she is 100% for the boycott. And she broke it down and gave a very compelling series of facts and statistics as to why the boycott needs to happen. The only way that we can gain any kind of traction in the state of Georgia is through economic means, because that is what has worked from the civil rights movement forward in this city. It is what works, because Coca-Cola, AT&T, UPS, Home Depot, Chick-fil-A, these organizations donate large amounts of money to Republican and Democratic candidates. If these companies did not donate to Brian Kemp, he wouldn't have a war chest for the upcoming election. And the same thing goes also for Stacey Abrams. So when Stacey Abrams is there giving advice about avoiding a boycott, I have no doubt in my mind a part of that is about self-preservation in the face of opposition, because she can't be painted as anti-jobs, because somebody may lose their jobs due to the boycott and cutbacks. That's how hardball is played. And she can't be seen as someone who was contrary to businesses in the state of Georgia, because that could hurt her future campaign contributions as well. So I understand her point of view, but I look at someone like LaTosha Brown, who is the founder of Black Voters Matter. She is the one who's done just as much as Stacey Abrams in Georgia to register new voters and to get Black voter turnout to happen. And she is saying to boycott. She is the one who started Boycott Delta, Boycott Coke, and took it to the national level. And she is asking for even more support. Luckily, Microsoft has come out and said that they're on board and saying that this is a negative bill. You have 71 Black CEOs coming out and executives saying that this is a problem, we stand against it. And it's soon, I hope, the MLB will move the All-Star game, as too will the PGA. When you talk about Black people being hurt, I want you to think about and recognize this, that number one, for the gross domestic output of Georgia, we have the lowest minimum wage in the country, the lowest in the nation for what amount of money we bring in. Georgia is ranked 7th in America for a place to do business, but we still have one of the lowest minimum wages. Our workers, the Black people that we're worried about being hurt, they're not being helped. The only way to get them help is activism. But we won't get activism if we continuously put money in the pockets of these big businesses. Look at the people that will benefit the most from the All-Star game happening in Atlanta. And you know who it's going to be? Because I'm telling you, I'm not going to no baseball All-Star game. Are you? I don't think so. This is not the NBA All-Star weekend. People are not putting their wig and all these pumps on to go get dolled up to go and see the Braves or whoever's going to play in that game. The people that will be hurt are the people at Truist Park, the Braves management, the owners, and those people will be hurt. But I don't know how many Black businesses are there at the Battery, Tracy. I haven't seen any. I don't think there may be some.
I remember, I think is Crew over there. Is that, I don't know if that is the Black
Crew is there. Is that owned by Portia's husband?
I don't think that's the same Crew.
Right, I don't know. But here's the thing. I would dare say that we're not going to have Black business owners hurt by the All-Star game not being here or the Masters tournament in Augusta not being here. But what will be hurt are these wealthy donors to people like Brian Kemp. They're going to be hurt.
But that's the point that I want to make, Zach. Like, what I'm trying to understand the purpose of the boycott of Coke and Delta, which have jobs for Black and brown people in Georgia. Why not boycott the MLB, the Augusta? Prime example.
We don't go.
Listen. Prime example. When Mississippi didn't change the flag way back when, people were pulling their conventions out of Mississippi. I can remember my fraternity saying, no, we're not going to have our convention and bring the dollars to that state because of what that flag represents. If you all know that this happened, why not boycott those places so they can't bring those dollars into the state? Like, that's the purpose that I'm saying. Why pull from the jobs of people and the money that's going in their pockets?
We want those places to boycott. We want you to boycott Georgia. That's the point. I don't want you to come to Georgia and put any money in this state until they repeal this law. I don't want the All-Star game here, and I don't want the PGA here. But we're saying boycott Delta and boycott Coca-Cola because we need to have immediate response and an immediate result. It's about the social media call to action.
But we're in a pandemic, and some people have lost their jobs already.
But more people are making more money on unemployment than they are going to work.
I'm not going to argue with you on that.
So
yeah, this is the thing. We're not going. Let me tell you something. When you look at the economic impact, Coca-Cola and Delta are not going to cut massive amounts of jobs immediately because of this. What they're going to do.
I know many people who lost their jobs because people are just now starting to fly again. There are many flight attendants.
No, what I'm saying, Zach, is this, not because of this boycott. As soon as we started the boycott, and as soon as it started to gain national attention, and as soon as it became an embarrassment, they immediately gave us brand new statements of support. Immediately. The boycott started.
But a statement minus action is
Friday. Zach, the boycott started Friday.
But a statement.
We got a strongly worded statement from Delta and Coke CEOs being on national television doing the rounds on Tuesday.
So if they're giving statements, what is that doing? We need action. You just said they still giving to these other people under the table. So statement and action is fluff. What is that doing?
The law has passed, my friend. The law passed Thursday.
So what is boycott doing? So Zach, help me understand.
Calling out the national attention that should have been there in the beginning. And we are punishing these businesses for not doing what they should have done in the first place. And now they have to think twice about the stance they're going to make in other states like Texas and Arkansas and the other 41 states that have the same kind of legislation on the table that has yet to pass. In addition, they have made a commitment to support senators who back House Bill 1, the John Lewis Voting Act, becoming law. That's the power of the boycott and getting these corporations to do their work. That's the point. And so that's why we're saying boycott Coke and boycott Delta. When Tracey sold her stock options and other Black people sold those stock options, it sent a message and it got them off their butts and it made them accountable to the people that paid them. Because the Black dollar is all we have. When you try to take away our vote as our voice, we must put our capital and make that our voice.
And not just that, they needed to realize the majority of their employees are Black. So why would you speak out against, why would you speak up for something that is going to directly affect the people that you employ? You need to think about that. And the problem is there's not enough Black people in corporate. There's not enough Black people on their board. Somebody should have caught that shit before they went over there and stood up next to Governor Kemp. And because of that, that's why diversity and inclusion is important. That is why affirmative action is important, Meghan McCain. That is why, because when we don't have representation, we have white people who are just not aware. They're not aware. He did not take his employees into consideration.
And here's the thing, Kale, you make a good point, but we can't care about the workers in the industries when your own governor and the people that pass these laws don't. Here's a prime example. Like you stated earlier, the Republican Party of Georgia called for a repeal of the fuel tax that's been put in place to give Delta tax breaks that keeps them here and keeps them headquartered here. Delta doesn't need Atlanta. Delta can pack their national headquarters up and go to North Carolina, who wants them. They can go to New York, who wants them. They can go anywhere they want to and relocate their hub. Georgia needs Delta more than Delta needs Georgia. And if our idiot Republicans and governor, they don't realize that, then that's the part of the problem. This is what it takes to bring about the change that we need. We worked our asses off to get this state flipped and for Biden and Kamala Harris. We put all that we had into it. It was the power and the will of the people, not just Black people, not just brown people, but the voters of Georgia. We turned right around. We turned right around and did it again. For Warnock and Ossoff giving control of the Senate, the slim majority to the Democratic Party for this whole entire nation. Because of what we did in Georgia, in the midnight hour, in a runoff election, we have a $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill that put money in the hands of many American families that they wouldn't have gotten, that put vaccines in the arms where many people wouldn't have gotten them, that's opening schools up. We helped make that happen. We were a major contributor. And then to turn right around and have Republicans say, none of that matters. Your voice doesn't count because we're in power from 2020 or 2018, and we're going to strip you of everything that you fought for. And then to have the people with the power, the business community and Hollywood and the media not defend us, well, they have failed the American people.
The damage is already done, though, Kel. I agree that the damage is already done because Hollywood is in Atlanta, and the moment Delta and Coke and Home Depot were seen as a part of this legislation, Hollywood was like, we gonna move our studios up out of here. So it don't matter. We're gonna stop using you all to fly. Like it's the damage has been done, regardless of the 4-day boycott. The damage has been done. They shouldn't have aligned themselves with it, period. Point blank.
The damage has been done.
It's been done. This BIPOC movement that we got in this entertainment industry, we stopping all the BS with these corporations.
But here's the thing. We do need to have national voting rights passed, but how can we do that when we don't have the votes? We don't have the votes, and unfortunately, in these Republican states, I don't know if we're going to flip any states in 2022.
Do we not have the votes because people are not voting?
We don't have the votes because of things like this. Voter suppression is a carefully calculated process that goes into place for decades. Mississippi is a prime example. Mississippi has enough Black people to flip that state blue, but because of voter suppression and the way that white supremacy works, people in Mississippi don't vote. It is not because the Black people are lazy or uneducated. It's a system of fear and suppression that's in place. You can't vote early in Mississippi. My mom can't go and vote early and cast an early ballot. That's not an option. You vote on election day, or you don't vote unless you are over 65 or you have a medical condition that's documented. You have to have it documented. That's what I'm talking about. And that's what Republicans in Georgia want to see happen here. That's what they want to do. And note, Republicans are the ones who gave us all these voting rights in the first place because it benefited them when they were the minority. When Democrats used to run the state. And when they got in power, they quickly added all these voter protections. Now that they're losing again, they pulled them away. It is absolutely immoral, and it's absolutely dirty politics.
Can we do nothing? Like, we can't do nothing about this? Nothing? Like, I feel like all the work during the civil rights movement was for naught. These people are blatantly going back to Jim Crow laws. Hell, they've reached back to the 1897 plan of Mississippi.
Yep.
I just read on that and I was like, oh my God, we've gone backwards, and there's nothing we can do.
We haven't gone backwards because it's not a done deal yet. And here's the thing. There's several things that can happen. Number one, what people actually don't want to talk about is the fact that they could go back in session at the bequest of the governor and undo all this damage. And that is highly unlikely to happen because Brian Kemp is a hard-nosed, super stubborn Scorpio who won't ever probably admit he's wrong about anything, although he's wrong as hell. But that could happen.
But
think about this. If the All-Star game chooses to not come to Atlanta, if Delta threatens to leave the state, if the Masters tournament in Augusta pulls out, because that is massive revenue for that area, that could prompt someone like Brian Kemp to be forced to call a session and undo this damage. It could happen. Now, when we talk about vote them out, James, let me explain something to you that I think people have missed. And this is the harsh part. This is something I'm so glad you said it because it triggered me to remind myself to say this. This isn't about not getting water at the polls. This isn't about about requiring a voter ID. That's not what pisses me off. That's not the problem. The problem is in the 2020 election, everything came down to the Secretary of State's office, Brian Raffensperger, and the county's election boards and their ability to verify the votes. In Georgia, we counted those votes 4 times. We certified the election 4 times. This brand new bill takes away the power of the Secretary of State. John Raffensperger, it would not be allowed to verify the results of the election. In Fulton County, they could have removed that whole entire group of people and brought in the state people to run that election, which is what they wanted to do. This bill creates an election board, which will be appointed by the governor, Republican governor, who will appoint his Republican cronies to put them in place. And they're going to be over every county election and every state election. And they're going to be the ones that Donald Trump will call on the phone and say, can you find me 12,000 votes? And it's really easy to invalidate a ballot in Georgia if you really want to. Well, sir, this signature doesn't look like your signature on your license. Can't count it. And I'm going to do that in all the predominantly Black areas. And the same way that they don't send machines to Black areas for us to have enough voter machines, or they forget the cords, that's the suppression that they've been using. But now they have a whole new method that's been put in the bill. But James, do you know that? That's what pisses me off, is that so many people think we can just vote this over. We can vote and we can win the vote, but now they have a mechanism to undo our votes. That's in the bill.
So what I'm asking is, what can we do other than vote? Like show up to vote?
We need Brian Kemp to undo the law, or we have to have federal intervention. But the problem is we don't have the 60 votes in the Senate to pass this legislation.
But Zach, we know Brian Kemp is not about to do it.
We
know Brian Kemp is not about to do it.
I don't believe that Brian Kemp would allow those corporations to if the corporations bring up these massive demands, I believe that Brian Kemp will fold under pressure. You have to think about this. Brian Kemp refused to give us a mask mandate and close down any businesses, including bars in the state of Georgia, because he was so concerned about the economy, because this man cares a lot about money and donations. He really, really does. It's a big deal to him. He cares about that money. And I'm telling you, this boycott of Coke and Delta that caused them to take action, it has made a big deal on him. This man has been talking. Let me tell you this. Brian Kemp has not been responding to tweets and Facebooks or anything like that doing all this Trump stuff. But let me tell you today, he hopped that butt up there and he's been responding like he's Donald Trump himself, trying to defend his actions because of the heat he's taking from the corporate community. He cares about the money.
But what does that say about our culture if we say that big corporations run government?
It's not that big corporations run government. It's that
that's what you're saying.
Contribute, but they donate. They do. That is a reality. They do. They do. And so we can't deny the fact they give money, they donate, they need to have a say in protecting the rights of the people. And if they do what's right, it benefits. And we have businesses that do what's wrong. Look at My Pillow guy. Look at Goya Beans. It goes both ways. Look how much money Goya Beans rolled them beans out on Donald Trump. So pour some Coke out on us. But yeah, so James, I'm gonna make a video about it, explain it, and break it down. I'm gonna tag you in it.
I'm so
Here's the thing. John Roberts struck out the power of the Voting Rights Act. John Roberts did that in the Supreme Court. So that opened the floodgate to these laws. And if this makes it to the Supreme Court, they're going to side with the Republicans. That's the whole point of the Donald Trump court in
your Supreme Court.
We have the lawsuits. 9 different lawsuits have been filed against the state government. Those lawsuits aren't going to win. The Supreme Court is going to stand with Georgia, not with the people.
Well,
Yes, Supreme Court's not going to side with us, Kale. Not going to happen.
You don't think so?
No, John Roberts is very anti-voting rights. He struck down parts of the 1965 or 64 Voting Rights Act
That's
already.
what I'm saying. We are going backwards. We're going backwards. This is not forward movement.
James, we don't make up a majority in Georgia. It's not. I'm sorry, my friend. We're not the majority. Democrats are not the majority of this state. We won by a slim margin of independents and Republicans who came over and voted with us. There's no guarantee they're going to do that again. I know you believe that voting is going to be the tide turner, but it's not going to probably work out that way. I hope it does, but it's usually going to, it was a 12,000 vote difference. And again, it's not hard to invalidate 12,000 ballots from DeKalb County and Fulton County where predominantly Black people live when you have that power to do so. And that's what this law gives that board.
We are back to Jim Crow. Welcome, people. Welcome back to the Jim Crow South.
It is a sad and hard day. And you know, Stephanie, maybe Civil War is coming. But hopefully it won't get to that point.
That's why gun sales are up.
Yeah, they're right. You're right. We have got to do our part, and we've got to get, you know, we've got work to do, and we've got to commit ourselves to do it. And we have to really emphasize the work. And yep, we got to vote. We got to get more people ready to vote. We got to get our IDs, all that. I agree with it. But we also have to get and mobilize the tools that are available to us. And that includes the corporate world and Yollywood. We got to have it.
Get here though. How did we get here?
It's a part of the process. This is what happens when you win. Think about this. I was talking to a relative, and we were just talking about, I had no idea that my ancestors made significant progress and movement in Reconstruction in my hometown area. Had no idea. They absolutely benefited from, you know, a lot of different things that worked in their favor, and they were the largest land owning family in my county. Over 500 acres of land in one area that was deemed nigger town because they owned it and it was theirs. It was it was there, and it got slowly rolled back over time. Reconstruction was a massive win for Black people in America, and laws came and slowly eroded and ate it away. We have lived through this already. We don't have to live through it again. We don't. We will live through it if we don't fight and we don't bring up the lessons of the past, but we have to bring up the lessons of the past. We don't have a choice. Our futures depend on it.
And that's why, Zach, I'm so optimistic about it. And that, like, for Black people, when we didn't have a way, we made a way. And so for this law, to me, it disenfranchised a lot of white people as well, especially those in those rural towns. Like, they're working past 5 and not able to vote either. They're the ones who are majority Republicans. So that's why I'm saying, like, I feel like we're going to make a way to get over this, whereas it's going to disenfranchise those white people in those rural areas that are white collar, blue collar, or whatever, trying to work and not be able to vote because you're closing the polls at 5. You're not able to vote early like normal. And so I think it's going to hurt them as well.
Or Georgia just needs to shut down everything. All the workers need to strike all over the state on voting.
Kelly Loeffler, who failed to win re-election, has created an organization just like Stacey Abrams, Fair Fight, but it has a different name, but it has the same goals. And so let me tell you the name of it. Kelly Loeffler, you can Google this. People don't even, you know, when you say that, like, you know, Stacey Abrams mobilized registered voters, got them out there. She is doing Kelly Loeffler is doing the exact same thing. And her organization, voting, let me find out. It's all the stuff came about because she sold her WNBA.
Good, because they weren't going to play for her. Greater
Georgia. Kelly Loeffler has started an organization called Greater Georgia to be the opposite of Fair Fight. So her goal is to register more Republicans and conservatives in places like Marjorie Taylor Greene's congressional district and make sure that they are voting and that they are the bigger majority so that they vote in large numbers. And she's working her tail off. And as we know, she's one of the richest women in America, and she's putting her own money behind this to ensure that in Georgia, more white, Republican, conservative voters come out to vote. So we have to look and consider all of that. And that's fine to me. I think that's a great thing for her. That's how you win. I don't have a problem with Kelly Loeffler doing that. Do it the right way. Register more voters. Convince people to vote. Do it the right way. But changing laws to suppress vote, that's the wrong way. We've got to go, everyone. This has been, I think, a great debate. Zack, thank you so much for joining us, my friend. It's always a pleasure.
I'm hurt.
What's hurt you? What's hurt you?
I'm gonna be honest. I know we're about to go, but I just don't feel uplifted. I don't feel like they're right at the end of the tunnel, and I'm tired of just getting by.
It's depressing. It's hard, but we have work to do. We have work to do, and the thing is this: we have to, number one, there needs to be people who are going to vote for the right candidate, the Democrat. It has to happen. The best candidate, period. We got to ensure that we have them on the ballot. We also have to do a good job of encouraging, motivating, and mobilizing. We don't have a choice. And if the boycott is what it takes, and that's the boycott is what it takes.
Well,
and educating. I
was going to say, we're going to have to start mobilizing and engaging these other communities of color who vote against their interests. For example,
are they voting against their interests?
Absolutely, they are.
It might not. They might not see it that way.
But they are. Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm just.
They are absolutely voting. They are. Have you seen their hoods compared? I mean, they living in the hood. They in Brookhaven, but it's the hood of Brookhaven. And they're gentrifying their hoods and they're pushing them out. They're voting against their own interests.
They are.
They are.
Yeah, no, it's a boycott. It's an absolute, I'm canceling. So that's what I call it. I'm canceling. I'm canceling Coke.
No more.
No more Coke.
Does that mean I can't drink ginger ale Canada Dry?
You gotta drink what is it? The S. Yes.
Team Schweppes.
So thank you guys for joining us. We will see you all next week.
Thank you all.
Thursday, we go a little bit deeper into the issues. We try to keep smaller topics and go deeper. Thank you guys for joining us, and talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Zack.